My name is Crystal, 21 years old. I like to study English from an early age, and by the time I graduated from high school, I could speak quite English. Taking advantage of the special skills, I now work in the overseas sales department of a bank. It was there that I met my marriage partner, Adolf. I am very nervous that I will go to Adolf's parents' house to greet the marriage. I heard that Adolf's father was a professor at a university. Will I be recognized by Adolf's father?
You don't have to be so nervous. I was really happy when I told him about Crystal.
I'm still nervous. What should I do if you don't admit it?
Everything will be okay.
Although Adolf encouraged me, I could not wipe away my anxiety. On that day, I visited his family home with Adolf. I pulled my hand lightly and Adolf pushed the doorbell of his parents' house. Then, the front door opened and a woman smiled at me.
Welcome, please go up.
Oh, thank you. When I was passed into the room, I bowed my head to his parents and sat down in the designated seat. My parents-in-law are smiling at me from beginning to end, whether they welcome me.
No way to Adolf. Such an excellent person will come to marry him.
I wonder what a perfect couple it is that they are as fluent in English as Adolf.
When I was praised by my parents-in-law, I was embarrassed and depressed. The questions I received from my parents-in-law were constantly asked, and I responded with a choice of words without being rude. I have been working as a contract employee since I graduated from high school. However, the moment I answer about my current job, the atmosphere of the parents-in-law changes completely. Where is the welcome mood so far? The father-in-law's face seemed to be tugging.
Are you a contract employee? Excuse me, but can you tell me your academic background again?
I wanted to live on my own quickly, so my final education was a high school graduate.
Huh. I can't believe you've only graduated from high school. Sounds like a bottom person.
As soon as they knew that I was a high school graduate, my parents-in-law looked at me with contempt and looked down on me. Suddenly I was surprised and opened my mouth.
What a rude thing you're saying.
The rude one is the woman who came to say hello to me calmly, even though she is a low-educated woman. That parent doesn't even have the common sense to let her go to college.
She is not making a lot of money, so thinking about getting married to our house. A low-income house? This is so guessing what to do, not at all.
Although Adolf blames his parents, the two make fun of me and my parents, who are undereducated. Because of my lack of words, my parents-in-law misunderstood my family. I decided to explain why I was a high school graduate in order to somehow solve the misunderstanding. I'm certainly a high school graduate, but that's because my parents told me that I could live my life freely. I thought about going to college in the future, but I couldn't get interested in college. I wanted to become a member of society early enough to spend time on things I wasn't interested in. So it's not that I was poor and couldn't go to college.
Anyway, you didn't graduate from college. How you don't think about life seriously? The options for employment are reduced. You do not understand such things because your parents are idiots.
After hearing my explanation, my father-in-law still disrespected me. They were trying to put the blame on my parents, even though I had chosen this path myself. I felt angry inside because they were making fun of my parents as well as me. But I tried not to let it show on my face and tried to respond calmly with a tight smile. It's true that going to college would broaden your job opportunities and give you an advantage, but
That's right. Even an idiot could figure it out, but you are a fool for not going to college.
I can't admit that you're married to someone who doesn't even go to college nowadays. I don't know what the neighbors will say if dad is a professor and the wife is a high school graduate.
I gulped at the statement that my mother-in-law would not approve of my marriage. It seemed that Adolf was the same way, and he was speechless.
Adolf, you will find a woman more suitable for you. Don't choose such a bottom feeder. You will regret it later.
He said, "You both are saying way too much. You don't know anything about Crystal." Adolf shouted at my parents-in-law and grabbed my hand, heading for the front door. I managed to turn around and bow to my in-laws, even if I don't resist his strong force. Once in Adolf's car, which he offers to drive me home, there is a heavy silence for a while. As I choose my words to speak to Adolf, he apologizes to me with a potty mouth.
Sorry, I didn't mean to make you feel bad.
No, it's okay.
You're always been great. You never get emotional.
I was not raising my voice, but I was very angry inside. If it were not for my in-laws, I might have yelled at them. But even if my in-laws did not approve of our marriage, it would not change our feelings. I chose to think of it as a further understanding of each other's feelings. Although I was disappointed that my in-laws did not approve of our marriage, Adolf and I would continue our relationship as before. After that, my relationship with Adolf and I continued as usual. One day, Adolf called me, and without a doubt, I pressed the call button.
Hi, is that Crystal? It's extremely difficult to remember the name of someone from the bottom of the barrel, isn't it?
Oh, it's you. I gulped for a moment as I realized that the voice that echoed from the speaker to my ear was not Adolf's. A beat later, I realized that the voice that is looking down at me is my father-in-law. "Can I help you?" I asked my father-in-law on the other end of the line, trying to keep my voice as even as possible, trying not to let my agitation show in my voice.
I would like to visit your parents' home.
At my parents' house? I can only wonder at this sudden offer. If he was opposed to our marriage, there would be no need for him to visit my parents' home. Why is that?
We have things to do.
My mother-in-law's voice echoes from the speakers. She says something abstract like things to do, but I guess she mostly wanted to make fun of the way my parents and I were living.
I was curious to know how family with a high school diploma was living nowadays. I'd love to see it for my own edification.
Oh. Even though I explained the situation to them, my in-laws seemed to have imprinted my family as a poor one in their minds. Even if I took them home, I don't think they would have anything that my in-laws would want.
Let me tell you how important education is in this day and age.
I knew my in-laws were trying to make fun of us at home and mount us. I heard some rumbling on the other end of the phone, and my parents-in-law's voice trailed off.
What are you doing? You took the liberty of using my phone to call Crystal.
What? We're just trying to give a social lesson to a naive, uneducated person.
How much trouble do you think you're going to cause Crystal? Don't you feel any shame? Adolf was furious that his phone was being used without his permission. His kindness was painfully clear, and that my in-laws looked down on me and my parents to the point that even Adolf was too much for them to handle. I said, "That's fine. Please come to my parents' house."
Oh, you're so graceful, aren't you?
I couldn't cause Adolf any more trouble. I decided to invite them to my parents' house to show his parents a little respect. I'm going to invite them over to my parents' house. Then, how about next weekend?
I am looking forward to it. To actually see life at the bottom with my own eyes.
My father-in-law spat out and unilaterally hung up the phone. I headed to my parents' house after work and decided to talk to them about my in-laws. In fact, they had asked me how the other's parents had been the day I went to Adolf's house, but I hadn't given them any details about Adolf's parents because they had told me so badly. But if my in-laws were coming to my house, that was a different story. I told my parents what my in-laws had told me when I visited them to say hello, and that I would be coming to see their house during the upcoming holidays. My father and mother were silent as if they were pondering the situation. But then they smiled and said,
Maisie. So they said that a high school graduate is not suitable for a wife because of low education.
If they want to see our house, we are very welcome for them.
My mother's eyes were not smiling, although she had a smile plastered on her face, and her voice was cold. My father's expression was the same as usual, but the corners of his mouth seemed to be slightly upturned in amusement. I could sense that my parents were quietly expressing their anger toward my parents-in-law. I shudder, feeling a little fear in my body at the sight of my parents' quiet behavior. I can feel my body trembling as I feel a little fear in my body.
We've got an idea. Don't worry.
We'll make you feel very welcome. I'm looking forward to our next weekend.
I left my giggling parents to their own devices and headed home. I told Adolf that my parents had given their consent, and we spent the rest of the day nervously waiting for the day of the visit. On the day of the visit, my parents' house was in an obscure location, so I arranged to be picked up at the station. On the day of the visit, I waited at the station a little early, but Adolf and my in-laws did not show up at the appointed time. I guessed that this was a strategy by my in-laws to make me angry, so I took a deep breath and waited, trying not to show my emotions. Adolf and his family showed up half an hour after the appointed time. Adolf approached me, whispering to my in-laws, "I'm sorry I'm late. You've been waiting a long time. It's okay. I don't mind waiting." Adolf bowed his head and apologized. Adolf is so serious that he has never been late for an appointment with me. Adolf would have tried to leave the house with plenty of time to spare. However, it appears that his parents intentionally made him late.
They said, "What's the use of making her wait a little?" I tell them to shut up and wait for us. The value of their time is different from ours.
What kind of a person are you to be late for an appointment? Adolf shouts angrily, although my father-in-law says it in a strong voice. I placated Adolf and walked out to show my in-laws around.
What the hell? Don't tell me we're gonna walk.
No. I have called a car to take us. A luxury car was parked at the station, and the driver bowed to us as soon as he saw us. I could hear my in-laws gasp in surprise at the fact that we had a driver.
Don't push yourself, or you won't last.
Looks like you really want us to look that good.
My in-laws were sarcastic, but I ignored them and got into the car. Even after the car started moving, my in-laws continued to sarcastically talk to me.
What is it? It's a long way from the station, isn't it? You built a house in the middle of nowhere.
I bet you won't get many guests in such a remote place. What a pain in the ass.
Adolf's face would turn red and he would start to get irritated when I was being sarcastic. I tried to respond to these in-laws with a smile. I said, "I'm sorry. It's not good if it's so close to the station. It is true that my parents' house is far from the station, but there is a reason for that." As I drove away, I saw a mansion in front of me. Perhaps seeing it, my in-laws are silent, unable to express their sarcasm. When they got out of the car, their mouths hung open in surprise at the sight of the mansion. "Please come this way," I said to them. I called out to them, and they came to their senses and slowly walked toward the house. When I opened the front door, I was greeted by my smiling father. However, as soon as he saw my father, he turned pale.
He said, "Hello, you've come a long way."
"Chancellor." My father was the chairman of a school corporation and my father-in-law was a professor. My father-in-law, with my father in front of him, repeatedly bowed his head deeply. I had no idea that she was the daughter of the chairman of the board of trustees. No wonder she seemed so clever.
I thought she was too good to be true.
My parents-in-law changed their attitude to the point that I could not believe they had been sarcastic toward me just a few minutes before. But my father, who had been listening to me, understood that my parents-in-law were trying to mend the situation.
He said, apparently, you guys were concerned about Crystal having a high school diploma.
Well, that's, my father asked, and my father-in-law's gaze wandered. My mother-in-law looked away, fidgeting.
When Crystal was in high school, she studied abroad in the United States. She was so good that she skipped a grade and graduated, and she got a job there and is now multilingual in 5 languages.
When my father told my parents-in-law about my background, they were so astonished that they could hardly open their mouths.
And you said that level of education is important. Do you judge people by their education?
No, I don't.
It is important to learn. However, a person's value is not only based on his or her academic background. That is something that we, as teachers, must teach.
Yes.
You can't even understand such a thing. You are not fit to be a professor.
Oh, no, please wait.
You have always had a bad reputation among students and other professors, and have often been a problem in meetings.
Since he was condescending to me, he probably said such things to me on a regular basis at the university. He said, "Oh, no. I have always been devoted to this school, always thinking of the students. Yes, I have. Please."
Yes, this person may have made mistakes, but his feelings for the school are genuine. Please, just the professorship.
My parents-in-law got down on their knees to my father and rubbed their heads on the floor. But my father said coldly,
I've already made up my mind. I'm not comfortable even being in your sight, so please leave.
Hearing my father's words, the servants forced my parents-in-law to stand up and took them to the front door. My parents-in-law were left to their own devices, and they had become apathetic, perhaps lamenting the loss of their jobs. The house was quiet as the in-laws were taken away. I am so sorry. They were very rude not only to Crystal but also to you.
No, you don't have to be responsible for your parents.
Adolf covered for me every time I was being sarcastic with my in-laws, and my father, who was listening, told me to raise my head. He said, I promise you that I will definitely protect Crystal from my parents in the future. Will you allow us to continue our relationship? Adolf again offered his relationship with me, and my father nodded broadly.
Yes, I can trust you with my daughter. I will be counting on you to take good care of her.
Adolf patted his chest in relief and shook my hand. After that, my parents and Adolf got to know each other over a meal my mother had prepared for us. Even though my in-laws were very critical of me, Adolf is a person who does not judge me by my educational background. I know I will be able to get along with him. A few months later, Adolf was assigned to work at the US branch. With that, I decided to quit my contract job at the bank and study economics at an American university, something I had been interested in for a long time. Before Adolf and I left for the US, we got married. We had a ceremony, but Adolf's parents were not invited, and only close relatives celebrated. Although I was concerned about not having to invite my in-laws until the very end, Adolf's intentions were firm and he adamantly refused to invite them. I'm not going to invite the person who hurt Crystal. Just having someone who can see you properly is enough. He said that his parents had asked him to let them attend the wedding several times, but Adolf refused. The invited relatives congratulated us and it was a very good ceremony. We left Germany with a bang, but my father-in-law lost his job. It is said that he went to talk directly to my father many times, but it seems that my father did not deal with him at all. My father-in-law seems to have changed his attitude when he sees people, and it seems that the atmosphere at the university has improved greatly without him. It's been a while since my proud father-in-law lost his job, but he hasn't found a new one yet. He is looking for good deals even though there are many jobs to choose from. Eventually, his life became unmanageable and his wife started working part-time. She scolded her husband for not working, and the fights were constant every day. He sold his house and furnishings and now lives in the old apartment. In the past, my parents-in-law have contacted Adolf several times to ask for money. However, Adolf stubbornly refuses to help.
Pride doesn't make you hungry. Try to work hard.
Adolf yells at a call from his parents and hangs up. But despite his yelling, Adolf hung his head after hanging up. I wish I could help you if you're worried. Luckily, life isn't that hard, and I can probably do it if I make a little money. If my father-in-law is proud, borrowing money from his son might change his mind.
It's okay. He just needs to suffer.
I think he is already suffering enough.
If he thinks educational background is important, then he should try to use it as his strength.
No matter how much he has an amazing educational background, my father-in-law is not able to find a job due to his age. If he doesn't compromise somewhere, he won't be able to get a job. As far as I know, he doesn't seem to be taking the first step. If his son Adolf can't do it, then his daughter-in-law will have to do it. A few days later, I called my stepfather. After calling several times, my father-in-law did not answer the phone, and I repeated several times.
What?
How many dozen times did I call? My father-in-law finally answered my phone. Maybe it was out of pride or out of apology because he made a fool of me. Long time no see. How have you been?
There is none of your business.
There is no ambition in his voice, and he seems to have lost his confidence. Well, I will give you the money. My father-in-law can't believe it. I hear a weak voice from the phone. I thought that voice contained both hope and doubt. But there are conditions.
What?
My father-in-law's voice is trembling, and he may be frightened. Why don't you try a contract employee?
Contract employee? Stupid. There's no way I would do something like that.
As expected of a proud father-in-law. However, he had to let go of his pride and step forward. The good thing about contract employees is that it's easy to join the company. From there, you can join a company that has employee appointments and aim to become a full-time employee.
Why do I have to do such a po thing?
Because you are a po man.
What?
My father-in-law is speechless because I cut him off. If you don't step out of there, you'll be there forever. The father-in-law was silent, but I know my words resonate with him. Please? Adolf is also worried, so I want you to work. The fact that the call was not hung up was proof that he had not rejected my proposal.
Have understood.
That's what my father-in-law said, and the call was cut off unilaterally. About a month later, Adolf received a phone call from his mother. Worried about his parents, Adolf immediately answers the phone with a difficult look on his face. However, Adolf's expression brightened as he gave a few nods. When Adolf hung up, he gave me a big smile.
Father, I heard he has found a job.
Seemingly relieved, Adolf sat deeply on the sofa. So what kind of job did he get?
He'll be a janitor at this school, and that father is a contract worker. I'm surprised.
It seems that my condition is only a step forward as a contract employee. My father-in-law will have a hard time from now on, but it will also be a good experience. Surely Adolf and his parents will reconcile in the not-too-distant future.